Hey everyone, my name is Matt, and today I'll be showing you some DIY prototyping that I did on a small 12-volt air compressor I own. I've owned the compressor for a while and it's been great, however there's some shortcomings in the design that I've determined needed to be fixed. The first is that the compressor gets really warm when you're filling up a tire, and so I chose to remake the housing and add some additional ventilation slots to help cool down all the internal compressor components. The second issue is that the connector does not stay on the valve stem when you're filling up the tire, so I decided to make an additional component that threads onto the valve stem and is attached to the chuck. That way there's an actual physical connection between the two and they don't pop apart. The first part I made was a small aluminum ring, and it has a snap fit on the outside of the air chuck. The threaded component then snaps over the ring, and the threads can rotate while the chuck and the valve stem stay put. To make the part, I turned the outer dimension to final size and then bored out the inside to its final dimension. This was good for a one-off prototype, however for large manufacturing runs it would be a lot easier to start with a hollow aluminum stock and just cut off the part to the thickness that you need. The second part I made was the threaded component itself. It has a small groove in it that the ring fits in. That way the threads spin and the air nozzle does not. Again, I used increasing drill bit sizes to get the internal dimension to what it needed to be, and then went in and added that small groove. For large manufacturing runs, this would probably be easier if it was a cast part, just because the tolerances are fairly low and it'd be a lot less labor intensive than individually turning each one. Once off the lathe, I then added some threads to the bottom. These threads are 5/16 by 32, which is a standard valve stem size. After the threads, the component was all done. It turned out great, and I think it should work pretty darn well. Next, I went and I did some vacuum forming. This was a bit of a learning experience, as you'll see. My first attempt was pretty much a complete failure. I didn't get a good seal on it, the polycarbonate wasn't hot enough, and so I decided to give it another shot. This time I got it a lot warmer. I used some extruded aluminum to help get a better seal, and it worked better, but it still didn't work good enough. So I gave it one more shot, and this was the best yet. It got really close to what it needed to be, but it just wasn't cutting it, and so I had to punt a little bit. I decided that I'd go back and just add the additional ventilation slots to the original housing, and I used the mill for this. I used a 1/8 inch end mill and individually cut each ventilation slot, but you could probably just add those slots into the injection mold if you're going to do large-scale manufacturing of a new housing with the additional ventilation. After cutting the ventilation slots, everything was done, so I could go ahead and reassemble things. It went pretty quick and easy because I was using the original housing, so everything already had a spot. The only additional assembly was the new chuck, which I superglued that ring and then snapped over the aluminum threaded component. In the end, it works great. It runs a lot cooler. In some long tests, it was much cooler to the touch even. And then the best part is that you can now fill up a tire totally hands-free, and the air nozzle does not come flying off as soon as you turn the compressor on. Thanks for watching.